All right, hey everyone, this is Day Trader Rockstar here with you again, and this is another just an additional bonus educational video. And the reason I want to bring you this video is just because these setups are just they're happening a lot, and whenever I see a good example of what I call a high probability or multiple indicator setup, I like to get that out and just as just as education, because these are the setups you need to be watching for in this market. And when you see these setups, it's just like it's almost like money in the bank. You just have to have a little patience, a little discipline, know how to scale in properly, and then let the trade take over. So I'm going to go review. I have a bunch of stocks here. I just want to review them. Some of them were past trades that we're going to look back on. Some of them are new trades coming up, and just an additional video. Today I'm in the office working on this 10 for 1,000 watch list, but these other stocks I'm putting on the side just to send out because I do think they're good education. So I hope you enjoy this. Sherwin-Williams here. Again, this is a setup I normally like, a wedge pattern setup. Now this is an old watch list pick, but what I wanted to bring you is this. What I look for, and I did put out a video a couple weeks ago talking about if I could only take certain setups in the market. I mean, if I want to be a successful trader, I could probably break down about 5 chart patterns that I would look for, and if I could just wait for these patterns to set up, my job would be done. And this is one of those patterns. So wedge pattern set up on the lower. There's a couple different setups here. Again, you have the standardized wedge on the 200 period moving average, and kind of a little break up here. But what was really key here was this retracement back to the lower trend line. Also back to a double bottom here. So this is a combination of multiple indicators. You have a wedge pattern which broke down, but you had a retracement which you never really came right back down. You see how we just hugged that line? Something to watch. But that's not the key. The key is the stochastics here. As we pulled back into an oversold level, we held off the recent lows, and it held the lower that upper trend line retracement. So it actually came back. Whenever you have an upper trend line retracement and a low or a double bottom here, that's a great level there. Had a little candlestick reversal pattern there, but the key right there was the pullback, the double bottom versus out of the wedge pattern, and the crossover in the stochastic. So something that's great to find when you do find it. Again, print these out, put them up on your wall like the big game hunter we are. I think these are, the Marvell was another situation where we have a nice wedge pattern. And in this case, you had the stochastics in a wedge pattern. We talked about that in the last video, how there's a couple stochastic patterns I like to use. And this is a tightening of a wedge pattern, so a coiled, or you could call it a wedge. I like to just call it a wedge where the two lines are converging. And as that gets tighter and tighter and you come out of this wedge, that breakout usually brings us out. Now, we had a lot of trades last week which fell right into that category, the Lockheed Martin, which was that beautiful tight wedge. And we nailed that right on the lower trend line, and it just exploded out, and it continued to move up. But that was just another example of that type of scenario. So, again, put that on your list of trades that you want to look for, the wedge patterns, tightening of the stochastics to break out, and the follow through right there. And again, the reason you look at these positions, you want to try to get the maximum move in a short amount of time. I mean, in this wedge pattern, yeah, you could trade from here to here, here to here, here to here. It's a little choppy, but once you establish 75% into the pattern, you get the other indicators set up in the wedge, you have a great chance of a double in that move. So the swing trades really come into play here. DRI here, Darden Restaurants. This one's setting up now. Again, this is an inverted head and shoulders pattern. And again, what really comes out and nails it here is the oversold stochastics holding the divergence here. And the divergence, I mean, is, when we get oversold in the stochastics, you kind of are in a trending market until you get oversold in stochastics, and you do put that higher low in here. And once that happens, then you have that inverted head and shoulders, and then you have that chance of that major breakout. In this case, you got the breakout, and this is the first really retracement. We didn't retrace down to lower trend line, but we retraced to an upper trend line right here, and the 20-period moving average. But the key here is the stochastics are getting oversold again. So this one is set up again, Darden Restaurants, and again, that should be on the focus list going into next week. RAX, again, another good example of that similar scenario. And again, the inverted head and shoulders pattern, oversold stochastics holding off the recent low, and the tremendous move out of that pattern. RAX. And again, this is just to make sure you get your eyes on this. Now, going into next week, I do like the gaming sector. We did take a position. I took a position in Take-Two Interactive. And this is more of a, this is a little different scenario here. Not a high probability setup, but just a, we were trading this one off of the lower trend line. We got this, and now with the consolidation here, looking for that breakout of that channel line. But not to talk about that without talking about Electronic Arts, ERTS, which is giving us that inverted head and shoulders pattern, and the stochastics are pulling back. So we're starting to see a little divergence here, and the divergence is pulling back the oversold, but holding recent lows here. So still looking pretty good in ERTS, and something I'll start watching this week. I'm not in it yet. All right, this one is a higher risk trade, and the reason I'm bringing it up to you because I want to use it as a test subject. CBOE, not a very, it's a recent IPO, goes out about 4 or 5 months ago, and since then it's been selling off, and too much hype on this one, really. And I actually bought it, a little after the IPO, and ended up adding to it down here because of the scenario. This is really the first time that it really looks good, and it's because of the setup. Now, whenever you deal with an IPO, you have, there's no real history behind the chart there, so you can't really gauge it through stochastics. You can't really gauge it through patterns. You're really just taking a hunch, and in this market, you don't know, there's no right or wrong on taking a hunch. So, that's why I always stress having patience and discipline and wait for those setups to come. And this is a possible setup here because you have that first real trend line break, and this is the first real retracement back to a double bottom, and the stochastics pulled back. So, not to say it's going to go up, but this is like a test subject. I want to see how this reacts this week, CBOE. It is looking like if there's any type of balance to be had based on those indicators, this could be it. If not, this could be a totally different scenario set up. Still not a lot of history on that. That's why it's a higher risk setup. And I just want to bring that to you because I will probably mention it again. SPRD, a rock hard stock. Looks like there's further upside. This is another, another criteria that I want to be in. I want to be in stocks that are very strong in the right sector. Spreadrum, just starting to move here, so it still looks good. So probably might even get on, would watch this for some volume, probably some, who knows, M&A takeover chatter. Just an interesting, strong stock. I want to put it on the list. And the other one, which is really good, this one they do phone memory, ARM Holdings. And this is a very strong stock too. Not that I want to chase stocks, but I do believe this one has some much more of a lot of upside here. Stochastics are embedded, nice volume. This one I think definitely going higher from here, even though we did get a gap up on Friday. And it's hard for me to follow that gap. I think this is a great longer term trade, and this one's, you can see where this one has come from and where it's going. So really hard to chase it, but in some cases you'll never know. You could look back at Cisco, 10 years ago and where that came from, or any other stock, Apple, when it was trading at $13, $14 and looking at it now. It's, you never know where these stocks are going to go. So it's something to do your research on. TXCC, again, probably a low price stock of the week going into next week. Switch, and not a bad flag here. And we're starting to break out on this on volume on Friday. So TXCC. Something to good look at. And again, I'm just busting these out. I just want to get this out. BCI was a recent trade. And again, this is another good education because you had those divergence. Each time the stochastics pulled back, you had those bounce. Here was an inverted head and shoulders bounce. Here was a actually we pushed up against the 50-period moving average. Now we pulled back, actually kind of set up again in that situation, and from that level, we pretty much just ran. And this was basically just, when we got in on this, it was basically a trade off of all the rumors, McAfee being acquired, and this is a security company. So the buy trigger again went out at 2170. It's trading at 2478 now, and again 2170. You can see where that trigger went out here as we saw some strength come into it. And right from that level, we ramped up. So just to review some of that, VHC, remember that one? VHC. This one gets me sick because brought it to you on the site out of right as it were breaking out here, and this is type of momentum type of trade. And one of the big things as a trader, you try not to look back, and we got the thing, we watched this and we got that pop, and I took it off here, and then you look back at where you take it off at 850 and it's another 5 points higher. It's just an amazing running stock, VHC. And about 950, I said this is a great stock for those out there willing to take the risk, because it's really just getting the momentum. And if you're one of those cowboy traders out there and want to get into these momentum type of stocks, this was a great candidate. So I know, hopefully, you know, you guys are enjoying that. DGX, I think we went over this one. That was off last week's 10 for 1,000 watch list, but another good example of that, a classic slanted inverted head and shoulders, double bottom, multiple indicator setup. DGX, ANDE. This is one of those stocks where you want to get the wedge pattern, a stochastic indicator, giving you the divergence plus the sideways consolidation, the flag here, and from that level, you know, actually this was alerted at this point, you know, on that trend line, and from that point on, we just moved up here, ANDE, and going into next week, and again, I have to get that 10 for 1,000 watch list out, but this one I'll give you a little. Definitely like the AIG going into next week. It's going to be on the 10 for 1,000 watch list. Starting to see that divergence take place. You're getting a nice little pullback here, sideways consolidation, 200 period moving average overhead that's been tagged 3 times, 4 times the charm, and then we're heading higher. We should move back up into that level, stay above the 20, because it'll start a pattern which I call the 2200 squeeze, and from that point we'll push through the 200 period moving average. Take it, no bad news comes out on, you know, in the financials, but this is looking better and better here. So look for that one on the 10 for 1,000 watch list, and many others. So that's I just want to get those out. I have a lot of other stocks. Probably going to do some more videos, but I hope you enjoyed that little education. The real key to this is, you know, waiting for these setups, waiting for these high probability setups to happen, and if you could wait there, your risk reward, you know, gets better, and you become a more successful trader. So that's about it. Hope to see you on the site each day. DayTradingRadio.com. This is Day Trader Rockstar, and have a good weekend.